We talk about offensive tackles the Chicago Bears should target in the draft next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and we are just flying through these draft profiles, guys. We are 1 week away from the NFL draft. I can't believe it. I'm getting super excited about it. And also, if you're listening to it the day after I set this out, it's going to be a week away from when the Bears are most likely going to be picking. We'll see. I know some people are saying potentially trade up, but I'd love to see the 2 second rounders kind of almost so close to back. But like I said, I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm super excited for the draft season coming up, and we are going through offensive tackles. We just went through the cornerbacks, and I'm excited about this too because there's a lot of speculation on what the Bears could be doing at this position because it's still a great unknown. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Also, make sure to download the podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, any way that you want to digest it. Just search for Unbearable Sports or link is in the description. So, like I said, we're going through 5 offensive tackle prospects in the early rounds and then 5 in the later rounds. So let's actually first just see what the Bears have right now and what they could potentially want to do in the draft. And this is why it's so interesting because at left tackle, the Bears have Teven Jenkins as the starter. And then at right tackle, Larry Borom is listed as the starter as well. As backups, Latavius Pig Simmons is still on the roster. And also Tyrone Wheatley Jr. is also another tackle on the roster. Do you trust them to be your backups? We saw what Pig Simmons could do, and it wasn't a lot. And Tyrone Wheatley was more so just on the practice squad. He's a very good athlete. But we don't know if he's actually able or capable of blocking at a higher level. So that's why the biggest question is really, are they going to draft a tackle? Because it really determines, do the Bears actually like Larry Borom at this tackle spot, or do they think that they need to actually upgrade that position? Right now, Dakota Dozier is their right guard, and you can't really say that that is. You're hoping that that's not your definitive starter day one because he's been a starter and it hasn't looked very pretty. But the big news, I actually just want to cover a little bit of news before we go into draft prospects. They actually had some of the offseason workouts, and Larry Borom was lined up as left tackle, and Teven Jenkins was lined up on the right side. And honestly, I kind of like that because I thought Borom, from the games that we did see him at left tackle, I actually kind of liked it. I thought that he played pretty well, and Teven Jenkins, it does seem like he's more of a natural right tackle, but yet again, try it out, test it out. They were saying that it's not like locked in stone. They just kind of wanted to see how they played at the different positions. So we will see what the Bears end up doing. But really, the biggest question mark is what does Ryan Poles think of Teven Jenkins and Larry Borom? Because if they don't like them, you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to try and get a tackle pretty early on in the draft. Um, Otherwise, they might attack one later on to just get more of a swing tackle. That's why we're going to cover both. Let me know down in the comments what you think they should do. Do you think that they should go aggressive and go with the tackle early on in the draft, or do you think that, hey, we're good, we have Jenkins and Borum, so let's sit back and let's just kind of wait it out and maybe just grab a swing tackle. We need a guard. Let me know down in the comments what you think. But let's get going. So at the very beginning, I always like to kind of cover some of the people that I don't expect to be around. That is Evan Neal, Aquanwu, Charles Cross, and Trevor Penning. Really, I don't think any of them are going to be around when the Bears pick. Some people were thinking Penning, but honestly, I think that with Trevor Penning, people are going to see his tape, how he's just burying people, and they're going to love his demeanor. Yeah, I don't think that he's going to drop to the Chicago Bears at all. So let's see what the Bears are really going after. And honestly, if the Bears are going to draft someone early, I like the idea of them drafting more of a left tackle. This is my personal preference, just because Larry Borom and Teven Jenkins, I like them at right tackle. That's the biggest reason. That's my reasoning. If they were to draft a tackle high, I just like the idea of having a left tackle so that they can kind of go back to their more natural positions, even though that Teven Jenkins did play some left tackle in college. But it was really when he shifted over to right that you really kind of saw that demeanor and just the aggressiveness kind of come out on that right-hand side. But let's go to the first prospect. Now, this guy has been, first off, offensive linemen go everywhere. This was probably one of the hardest 5 and 5 to kind of put together because there's really no consensus. But I ended up going with the consensus mock drafts that I find online, and the first one is Tyler Smith, the left tackle out of Tulsa. We've definitely talked about Tyler Smith a whole bunch. He's practically on every single mock draft that's out there. So you might have heard a lot about him. 21 years old, really a raw prospect when it comes to that left tackle position. 6'5", an absolute, just very, very good athlete, a little unpolished, gets handsy, holds on to people a little bit too much. But when you get him in the run game, just an absolute freak of nature. He's not one of these guys that is absolutely a behemoth, but when he's out on the run, he just wants to bury people. And it's just amazing to see. And just really kind of is a nice tone setter at that left tackle spot. Like I said before, people get a little bit nervous because he's not completely great at with his feet, with his hands. He still has a lot to learn. But a lot of people might be seeing this and going, I really want this prospect. I really want to add him to my team. I was actually a little bit shocked that the consensus boards are saying he's probably going to go 29th overall, or majority of the time he's going around that 29 range. So I could see somebody definitely going with him in the first round, but when we did our mock drafts, you kind of saw the Draft Network and both PFF kind of like him in that second range with the Bears' first pick and sometimes even with their second round pick. But he's definitely someone to look out for. But the next guy, this is somebody that I'm super excited about. He is dropping and dropping, and I'm all for it. And that is Bernhard Raimann out of Central Michigan, another left tackle that he's being projected now going at pick 39 to pick 44. Who's got pick 39? Better believe it's the Chicago Bears. So a lot of people are saying he honestly, he's looking like he's going to drop to the Bears. We are talking about a 6'6" lineman that just has phenomenal athleticism. So a very good fit because it seems like Ryan Poles wants more of the lighter, quicker offensive lineman because it's going to be more of a zone blocking rather than the big buff power guys that Ryan Pace was trying to bring in last year. Also, I get big Lane Johnson vibes out of him. You see him with the Eagles. He just kind of blew the doors off the combine, a freak of nature athletically. Not saying he's going to be the next Lane Johnson, but you just kind of see some of his athletic profile, the way that he plays. It reminds me a little bit of Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson, definitely better prospect, hence the reason why he went in the first round. But still, I like his upside because of all the athleticism that he has. And the reason why he's dropping is really because a lot of people say, well, he needs to get bigger. He's a project. But honestly, I watch his tape. He's got great feet. He's got great hands. Like, he's a very, very complete prospect. And to me, it's just kind of baffling that he's not going higher. So I'm all for him dropping because I don't think we necessarily need a left tackle because, I like Borom, but if we can get a good one, a good upgrade like a Bernhard Raimann, I'm all for it. You get the best player available, get somebody that makes you better, get somebody that can protect Justin Fields, and I really like that selection. So that's kind of the second rounders. And honestly, I have a handful of kind of the third round people. Like I said, I kind of like to chunk it up at the very beginning. Those really seem like Smith and Raimann really kind of seem to be that second area, the second round types of talent. But then there's some that are kind of borderline towards the end. And we are starting with Nicholas Petit Ferrer out of Ohio State. We talked about him before multiple times, but when we were breaking down the Ohio State prospects, he was definitely somebody that we broke down. He is projected to go kind of 57 to 60, but also when you use different mock draft simulators, sometimes he can drop all the way to the third or even past the Chicago Bears pick a decent amount. What I like about him is he's a left tackle, right tackle, versatile type of starter. Started with Justin Fields and was protecting him. So really, to me, I like the ability for him to kind of be that swing player. The thing that gets me a little bit nervous about him is I don't necessarily think that you draft him and you're like, he's definitely better than Borom, and you throw him out there. It would be more of a competition, I feel, if he was eventually drafted. I don't like him as much as a Raymond or a Smith. But really, some of the pros, like we said, versatility, quick, and really good size. So really athletically, you really like what he's got, but also he has really kind of shown flashes of being kind of a number one blocker. I was watching some of the tape and I heard some of the announcers going, "This guy's going to go high. This guy's a definite first rounder." But then he has some games where he goes against Penn State, he goes against so like an Ebikadi out of Penn State, he goes against a Hutchinson out of Michigan, or he goes after Nebraska and he gets whooped for 19 total pressures in 3 games. So all these people are saying, well, when he goes against good competition, he gets whooped. When he goes against bad people, he does really, really well. So that's why a lot of people are a little bit scared off by him, because now they're saying, well, okay, he's a good athlete. He has this good tape, but are they taking advantage of his hand placement or his feet placement? And they found something out that you can expose this guy, because in the NFL, he would get exposed. People would game plan against that and say, we're going to dominate this rookie. So that's kind of the biggest question mark of this as well. But like I said, too, great zone blocker in the run game. So honestly, an 88 grade at blocking according to PFF. So good player that you could potentially get in that third round spot. I think the second round for the Bears might be a little bit too high for him, especially with some of the talent that's probably going to be around there. So that's why I like him more as a third round, if he's able to last that long. Now, I go with 5 early round prospects, but I do just want to throw this guy in because I did see some people, there were some headlines that the Bears love big offensive linemen. I swore that the Bears were saying they don't like that and they want people to slim down, but I saw a headline that had Daniel Falele on it, from, I think it was another podcast or an article out there. I just wanted to call him out. So he's not technically one of the 5, but just big, just absolutely huge. So if you see that name around there, just know, gigantic dude, that honestly, I don't think that he's a great fit for the Bears because they want to be small. They told all their offensive linemen they want them to kind of slim down, lose some weight, get faster, and 384 pounds does not scream get skinny, get faster by any stretch of the imagination. But let's resume with our normal programming, and we have 2 more players. What I like about this is we have not talked about this next guy, because in a lot of mock drafts, he's either going way too far down or actually kind of going smack dab in the middle. But the average mock draft takes him at about 75.6. So you're talking about kind of the Bears' third round pick, and that is Rasheed Walker, the left tackle out of Penn State. He is 6'6, 313. So you're talking about everything that you need athletically. Even when you're looking at him as a prospect, he's got the speed, he's got the size, he's got the power, everything from an athletic perspective, like a first round tackle. He's got the athleticism of that first round tackle. He's got good power in the run game, but he's been banged up throughout 2021. When he was going against stunts, you kind of saw that he just looked very, very confused. And also, um, he's physical, or like physically he's there, but you just kind of see some of the feet and you just don't love it. I don't know. It just watching him, I wasn't a big fan. I just felt like he should be better, but I just wasn't a big fan of his tape. But yet again, a good physical prospect that could then play that position, as long as he's got good coaching. So he's somebody that does go in kind of that third round range. So Rasheed Walker out of Penn State, just to be someone on the lookout for. We haven't necessarily covered him too much, so just wanted to bring him up. But the next guy, we drafted him, or the computers drafted him in the PFF mock drafts, and that is Abraham Lucas, the Washington State right tackle. He's going around pick 79 or so. So yet again, another third round tackle that the Bears could potentially bring in. That's what I really like about this, is that there's some tackles that you can add in kind of that third round. But yet again, same thing. I think if you draft one of these tackles, you're not necessarily saying you're the starter like day one. You might say, hey, we might want one of you guys to play guard. We might shift Borom in and play guard or something like that. But Abraham Lucas, he is a natural guard. A natural tackle. He is a right tackle. And some of the pros is that he's just an absolute incredible pass blocker. We talked about this in the mock draft stuff. Phenomenal mirror abilities. I think PFF says that he's the best mirrorer in the if that's a word, in the entire draft. So he's phenomenal at just locking eyes with who's ever in front of him and just tracking wherever they might be going. A 4.92 40 time. So like what we're saying, very good athletically, just absolutely dominant. But also, I just want to throw this stat out there. I pulled it all together. He had 2,195 pass blocking snaps and only allowed 49 pressures. If you don't have a calculator in front of you, that's 2% at tackle. That is absolutely incredible, especially because Washington State always passed the football. And that's what's incredible about Abraham Lucas. He's got the athletic ability. He's got a lot of that feet that you want as a pass blocker. But the biggest question, he was in that air raid style. He had 158 run snaps and 786 pass snaps in 2019. He's still a little bit light, some people are saying, because of his 6'6 frame and only being about that 315. But also, like, that's the big issue. You don't see a lot of his run tape, so you don't know how dominant of a run blocker he actually could be. Because it could be something that he's absolutely terrible at. He could be really good. We just don't know. So a lot of people don't like that you haven't seen the entire film of an Abraham Lucas. But I like him in that third round. I think that he's got good upside, and I think he could come in and definitely contribute for this team. So I want to just kind of bring up a couple things too. So that is our 5 early round prospects. This is also super up for debate because I grabbed the people that I felt were almost like surefire tackles. So there's some people like a Salyer, a Kennard that might be listed at tackle for some certain websites, but other ones, they might be more listed as guards. There are people that I'll probably throw on the guard episode. I still haven't put together the list for that yet, but that's the big reason why I really wanted to just focus on tackles. Just because I know personally, I want to tackle. Who can we get that is an actual tackle? And honestly, too, even with like a Salyer or a Kennard, if the Bears got them, always try them out at tackle. Why? Like, tackle is a more valuable position. And if they're really good at it, just give them a reason to move them to guard rather than just say, no, 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 you got short arms, you're a guard, right? So, so let's move on to the later rounds. And this, like I was saying before, was so freaking hard to try and find out who is going in the fifth, who's going in the sixth, because there's so many different sites. Depending on what site you use, depending on what site you look at, some of these guys are going in the third, some of these guys are going like seventh. It's absolutely crazy. So I just grabbed some of the people that I've seen in some of the mock drafts that I think that the Bears could definitely benefit from. And we're starting out with Max Mitchell out of Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajun. I've seen him kind of falling to the fifth round, so that's why I think that he can be out there. We've definitely talked about him. I think that in the TDN, the Draft Network mock drafts, he was definitely somebody that kept falling to us. He's only about 300 pounds. I think I saw somewhere that someone was saying he's actually not even 300 pounds, but I don't know how far-fetched that might be. He's a light guy. That's the reason why people don't love him. But he is just somebody that is ridiculously flexible. If you can add a little bit of weight on him and it doesn't really suffer too much athletically, I think he could be a phenomenal right tackle for you. And PFF had him graded as one of the top tackles in the entire draft. And that's why I think in PFF, he's kind of going into third, but everyone else a little bit later. So a lot of great upside, a lot of good flexibility. And if you can get him in the fifth round, that's pretty good. He can be a very good swing tackle for you and have that potential starter upside. So this next guy to me also has that starter level upside. I like Max Mitchell a little bit more than this guy, but still a good player. Kellen Deesh out of Arizona State. He plays left tackle, but can play he can be that swing tackle for you if you want. He's 6'7, 301 pounds. So this is the guy actually that was listed underneath 300 pounds. So people are saying super, super light. A lot of people are saying, kind of out in the fifth round. Some people are projecting him more and more in the fourth. So he could be somebody that drops. Freak of nature athletically, just needs that extra bulk as we talked about. Why am I talking about all these light guys? Because that's what Pohl said that he likes. And honestly, could be a very good addition, get quicker, and is a better fit inside of that zone type of scheme. So everything that you want as an athlete, that's who Deesh is. But really, you just have to work on that overall frame. 32-inch arms, and so when you look at him too, you go, okay, you're 6'7", man, and you have 32-inch arms. That's really tiny. Like, are you truly a tackle? Like, he doesn't, like, as a frame, he doesn't necessarily have it, and he doesn't have that great functional strength. Hence the reason why he's dropping in a lot of boards, because he should play tackle, but he doesn't have the arms, doesn't have the frame, doesn't have the size. But let's move down. This guy we have not drafted. We have not been able to see him anywhere. And that is Braxton Jones out of Southern Utah, the left tackle. He is 6'5, 310. Some people are saying, yet again, a lot of these, some people say guard. But to me, right now, tackle. Tackle at left tackle. But also some of the pros, very, very powerful upper body. That's how he wins. Just absolutely can smoke you. But also, he is a phenomenal zone blocker. He got a 93.5 grade from PFF. And really just the way to think about him is him coming out of Southern Utah. He's probably going to be more of a developmental type of prospect. So to me, it's everything that you want out of that developmental prospect. So that's why I really like the idea of getting this type of a player for your team. Just because if you're going this late and maybe he could go in the sixth round, you have somebody that can be your backup. Like, do I trust Pig Simmons to be our backup? No. Or Wheatley? I just haven't seen it, so he hasn't given me a reason not to trust him. Which could be very, very, very dangerous. But that's why I think that Braxton Jones could be somebody that you can kind of develop as that backup guy and potentially play and give you some upside. Because also some of the cons, he really only had one really good year of production, which was this year. He was going against lower level competition, as you can assume from Southern Utah. But also another downside is he's very, very, very upright with his blocks. Doesn't necessarily leverage his legs very well as he starts to move. So that's just something that you're hoping can be coached out of him. And if you can coach him, if you can develop him, he could be somebody that ends up being a good, valuable player later on in his career. Now, the next guy, this is a personal little favorite of mine. I like Cordell Volson out of North Dakota State. He is a right tackle and nasty as all heck. So to me, I like this. He's kind of like a very off-brand uh Jenkins a little bit. Not saying he's as good, but he is a off-brand version of him. But that's why I really like him. Because he's nasty. He brings that attitude that you want out of an offensive lineman. He's also not insanely athletic, but he's got that good level athleticism. He's got the NFL body that you want. But also, what I like about him too is in the Shrine Bowl, he literally played every position besides center. He had to shift over to right guard a little bit. To me, he's more of a right tackle. Some people like him at right guard. And that's why I like him too. You have somebody that has that position versatility. And if you're drafting him later on, he can compete for that right guard spot. He can, compete for a tackle spot. Ryan Poles wants the best 5 offensive linemen out there. And I think that he can actually compete and be a good contributor on this roster. Now, last, another guy we have not talked about, and that is Spencer Burford out of UTSA, UT San Antonio. He is a left tackle, right tackle, kind of flexible player. He has actually started at left guard, I think early on in his career, and he's only 21 years old. Very, very good zone blocker with very athletic types of traits. He was a 4-star recruit that wanted to go to Texas San Antonio, so he did. He's got great length, an aggressive blocker with great athleticism. What's there not to like? And he's probably going to be there for you in the 5th or even 6th rounds. I think that he's somebody that low key nobody's talking about. And he is somebody that, like, I haven't seen any really mock drafts that had him being selected. I think he's a good, talented player that could fall to the Bears and has all sorts of upside. You're talking about a former 4-star recruit that nobody really saw because he was playing for the Roadrunners. But why is he dropping? And obviously, lower level of competition, that goes without saying, but also just inconsistent hands, just kind of all over the place a little bit, but also tries to really kind of absorb the block. So he tries to more so like anchor, like wait for the power rush. But what he doesn't do is like if somebody's trying to rush around him, that's where he really kind of starts to struggle because he's trying to just absorb it and try and anchor. So some people question from the scouting reports that I saw, a lot of people question, can he truly just like sink back? Because it always seems like he's bracing for the hit a little bit too early compared to other prospects out there. But high upside type of guy that you can get late in the draft. So, is there somebody that we missed? I guarantee you there is because there's a lot of tackles out there. There's a lot of players out there, and there's so many. So let me know. Do you think that the Bears actually should draft a tackle? If so, how high? Is Larry Borom the answer? Is he not? There's a million questions out there at this offensive line spot because we need to get better. But the question is, how? That's why we have Ryan Poles. And honestly, we talk about Ryan Poles with this offense, and we never talk about our offensive coordinator. So it really seems like this is Ryan Poles' offense. So thank you all so much. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to download the podcast as well so you can hear all this and you don't have to hide it at work. So I'm your host, Brad Barron, and Unbearable Sports Podcast. We're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.